Hello guys, a little bit of an unusual video today. Before we get started, we are letting you know that this video is sponsored by Audible. Very exciting. We're going to talk about that a bit more. There's a link in the description below, but let's get to the story first.
Today we thought we'd have a bit of a story time.
Why not?
And the story that we're going to tell is a story that we get asked to tell an awful lot. If you've ever watched us on stream, it's one of the questions that we get asked, probably guaranteed more than ever, more than any other.
Yeah.
And it's one that we've answered plenty of times. It was one of our first ever Patreon videos that we put out. But we thought we would put the record straight and we would get out there into the world an official version of
How Tali met Evi, or How Evi met Tali.
This is the story of how Taliesin and Evitel met. And I promise you, everyone here,
This is a good one.
this is much more interesting than we were at a bar and we got drunk. Although that would have been good too.
That would have been alright.
That would have been absolutely fine.
I mean, I could go for that right now.
But this is a story which really could be a YA novel.
Yeah, this is full of deceit and subterfuge and really poorly fitting uniforms and museums and boys and English accents.
And someone called Zack.
Yeah.
Who, it goes without saying, and we're going to make this very clear, because again, when we tell this story, people are like, Asmongold's in this story?
Oh yeah, no.
Let's make it very clear, Asmongold is not in this story. This guy is called Zack, and you know,
No
if
connection.
we could change names to protect the innocent, then we would. But we've already
It's
told
too
this
late.
story
We've
so many
already told
times.
this so many times. We just used his name. So it's
Sorry, Zack.
yeah.
But
Sorry,
on the plus
dude.
side, you are very famous. And actually, there's a revelation about Zack, which we haven't ever said before, that we will have at the very end of this story. So can you set the scene, okay? Like, why was Evitel even here? Why was Evitel, like, in the UK? Because Evitel, you're not from the UK, right?
I am not from the UK. So the scene is it's 2012. Summer of 2012.
The Olympics.
The Olympics. It's hot. It's humid. It's summer. And so I'd been living in Berlin and I'd been finishing my master's. And
Why were you in Berlin? Your master's. Where did you do your normal degree?
I went to Yale.
No, I didn't know that. You've never mentioned that before.
Did you know that I went
something you never talk about.
to Yale?
You kept that a secret? Wow. I can't believe anyone knew. Oh, wow.
I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
well,
safety
that's
school for sure. Yeah. And I did that and I finished that and then I did art history and I did a little bit of philosophy. So I was really getting into like art theory and aesthetics. I lived in Poland for a year doing that there. And then, you know, chasing grants as you do because we don't have any cash. You're like, I'm going to be an academic and I'm going to find where people will pay me to study. So I did that in Berlin for a year and it was brilliant. And that wrapped up and I got to a point in my life where, well, I was going to maybe apply for a PhD. And I was looking at Kingston and Goldsmiths in London because my advisor in Berlin was like, you got to go to these places. They're really good. And there are some people that I was really going to like look forward to working with specifically. So like I applied for programs which were like continental European philosophy, which would have been, wow, God, my life would have ended up really different if I'd gone down that path.
Wouldn't have had no neon signs.
Wouldn't have one of these. I mean, maybe. So that was going to be my life. But I was like, you know what? Let's get to London. I have no, connections. I have like $200 in my bank. Let's just go there. I'll get some work. I want to see what living in London is like.
You say you had no connections, but you didn't come to London alone, did you?
No, I came with my boyfriend at the time, who was also living in Berlin. And we were like, let's do this together. Let's go to London. Let's make it work. And it didn't really work. I mean, I feel really bad because, we got here and we were like, how are
I
we
want to make it very
gonna
clear, I did not break this couple up.
No.
I was nowhere on
This
the
is
scene
nothing.
at this point.
No. Although he's a theater critic, so, maybe you two would have collided in a different universe.
Wow, maybe he slagged me off.
Probably.
Oh, I'm glad I stole your girlfriend.
Anyway, that didn't work. He left. I'm back to Romania.
It was really
actually.
funny because, like, you two kind of... You two. I don't think it was mutual. You decided it wasn't really working. And then he wasn't allowed to stay in the country anymore because he was from Romania. He had to leave.
So here's the thing. I'm really lucky because I have US and Polish citizenship, which at the time, back when the UK was still part of the EU, meant that I could come here and I didn't have to get like a visa. But with certain countries in the EU at the time, specifically like Romania, Poland a little bit too, it's really hard to get like a job because you would try to get a job. And I remember he applied for a job at this pub and they're like, cool, we just need you to get this like document and then we can sponsor you. And he's like, okay, cool. How do I get the document? And it's like, you need to be sponsored, then we give you the document. So you fall into this.
It does suck.
It really sucked. I think it's different now.
To him. Not exactly. For you splitting up, obviously, but for him just generally like trying to make it work in the UK. So it's too hard.
It was, yeah. So that was a shame. And, we kind of parted ways and I stayed in London. And so that is the start of me being in London.
But wasn't he like, I have to go back to Romania since we're girlfriend and boyfriend? Maybe you'd like to come as well.
I don't know if we ever actually talked about it. I think
so. He just went, and that was it.
Yeah.
And you were okay with that, and he was okay with that. Oh no, I know he wasn't okay with that, but like,
no, I mean it was a bit sad, but I had my whole life ahead of me, and I was thinking, no, like you can't. You're making me sound like I'm a bad person here, but look,
the heart wants what it wants.
It does, and this heart wanted to just be in London.
Sometimes the heart doesn't want what it doesn't want.
Look, man, I was like 24, 23,
Look,
24.
Man, sometimes the heart wants what it wants, and sometimes the heart doesn't want what it doesn't want, and you fall into the latter category right now. Enjoy Romania.
So here I am. I'm in London. I just have like very little money, so I desperately need a job. And I got really excited because, I was like, okay, at this point I was like, I think I'm probably not going to do this PhD thing. I think I'm going to just like live it up in London and just work and see what it's like not being in academia for a while, because I'd had no experience of that. I'd literally just been in school until I was 23. So I went for it. I applied for this job and I got really excited because it was in the museum sector, which I was kind of into. And I was like, oh, amazing. And I got the interview and I show up at the interview and there are like 20 people there. And I was like, this is a group interview. This is a group interview. And suddenly we're like doing skits. And suddenly...
I bet you loved that. Knowing you like I do. Well, and knowing you then like I did.
It was very clear from the beginning of the interview that only half of the people there would be accepted. That they had to cut half of the people there.
No way!
Yeah, so you had to go for... Oh, this is really messed up. Anyway, I got the job, which was at the front desk of the Natural History Museum. Listen... There's no glamour in this. Like, you might think there is.
There's a bit of glamour in it.
There's a tiny bit. And especially for me as an American coming here, I was like, okay, this is like, I'll do this job and then I can kind of set myself up and do something else.
So what did your day-to-day roles involve?
Oh my God. My day-to-day involved putting on a purple polyester shirt and like this little like pencil skirt because I couldn't fit into any of the uniform trousers.
Why?
I don't know. I just couldn't. I think they just didn't fit. They were all either too big or too small. They just like couldn't accommodate. So I did that, and then being like, a lot of the people there were super cool and really nice, and we were all kind of like in it together. But some people like really would just boss you around because it's how it works, isn't it?
And you're about as good with authority as I am. Like, you've got about as much respect for authority as
I went through a phase where I was very good with authority. It allowed me to, like, go to school and, like, do well.
Come from,
and
like,
then
I'm
like...
a proud lineage of sticking a middle finger up to authority, though, right?
I do.
Like, your parents were in solidarity and, like, literally were essentially classed as terrorists against the communist
so they were deported
of Poland
to America,
at the time. And deported to America. And that's why you were born there. So
was Dippy a good colleague? Dippy the Diplodocus was a very good colleague.
I was very good friends with Dippy. Okay, so what were your day-to-day?
Okay, so my day-to-day was like, I get there and I either do, I do one of two things. Either I sit behind one of the front desks and I sell tickets, or I stand around in one of the exhibitions and just kind of make sure things are okay. And there are some cool exhibitions on. There's the one about like Scott's last expedition, which is
Scott of the Antarctic.
Yeah, that was quite cool. There was also like this insane Body Worlds style thing with animals, which was horrific. And I have to say that was the one place where I have been asked out the most.
while you were standing with lots of plasticated like dead animals.
Like a cross-sectioned giraffe. There's always people being like, "Hey," like, why? Why here? Why now?
Something about all that flesh.
Oh yes, something about it.
Something about the formaldehyde smell.
Yeah,
and
it reeked of formaldehyde. It reeked of formaldehyde.
It was horrible. I hated it. I hate all that stuff.
So that was my job, and then that's where I was. That was me.
I was also there, and here's how I got there.
Tell me about this.
Because I was in that Natural Museum as well, and I didn't come from a different country. Well, I kind of technically did. I came from Wales. I was born in London, and I grew up in Wales from 5 onwards, and then I went to drama school, and I was an actor for like years and years and years, and I did okay, and I was, I made my living, which is all you can ever ask. As an actor, and it was good. One year I did a pantomime in Aylesbury. Ooh. I should take you to Aylesbury. It's an amazing place.
I'd love to go there.
So romantic. The upshot of that was I came off of that show, and I was kind of just done with acting. I was just really tired and sort of like just don't really. And like more offers came in for my next job and what have you. And I was like, I'm going to take a little break for a little while to my agent. And I went through like a big breakup and stuff just before that. And I was just like, I was done with not being, being an actor and most of the life. I was like, maybe I'll go back to it.
You're at a turning point.
Yeah,
kind of like I was.
Exactly. And I had no idea what I wanted to do instead. I was living in this warehouse in East London.
Oh my God.
It was so messed up.
Can I just say very quickly, for the first like 2 years, full 2 years of our relationship, we'd go and we'd hang out with a friend of ours that lived in the warehouse as well. Anytime we did that, it was literally just you two crying, reliving the horrors of the warehouse.
It was so horrible.
But we're over it now, I think.
They called it the soap factory when they were trying to sell it to people. Because that's a nice name, isn't it? It wasn't a soap factory, Evie. It's where I looked into it. I researched the history of this warehouse. It's where it was a glue factory and a detergent factory, and it's literally where they used to melt down the horses.
Oh my God.
For detergent.
Ugh.
In Victorian times. And it's I'd call it the soap factory instead of that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was horrible. It wasn't meant for people to live there. We had this landlord, the guy who looked after the building, who would come around every now and then, tell us to hide because people from the council were coming, and they had to pretend it was just a working space and things like that. We had these mental parties all the time. A guy died on our sofa while I was away on an acting job once.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was horrible. Anyway, so I was in a position where I was doing that, and I was living in this horrible place, and I was just applying to jobs to see what I could do, and this job for the Natural History Museum cropped up, and I too had a group interview.
Nice.
But it wasn't quite like yours. Mine had about 30 people in this group interview, and we were told that there were 28 spots. There were 28 jobs going. And there were 30 people.
What?
So it was
they literally cut half of us.
We have to be so bad not to get this job. We have to be the worst people ever not to get this job. And I got a job. I was working in the shop, and I managed to eventually, after working in the shop for a while, I was managed to convince the people who were employing me to put me in charge of selling guidebooks, because I got paid commission. I didn't have to be in the shop the whole time. And I too wore a terrible uniform. I would stand under Dippy the Diplodocus, under his big neck, selling guidebooks. Or, and this is important to this story, I would be out the front of the museum selling guidebooks. And I like that because once I sold my guidebooks, I could go home. I worked and I was good at selling guidebooks. So I had a pretty sweet gig there all in all. But I did also hate it with every single part of my entire life. And I was going to leave. And I got some tickets to go to a couple of festivals with my brother. I was going to go to Green Man Festival in Wales. And I was going to go to End of the Road Festival in Latimer Tree Gardens, wherever that is.
Out past Stonehenge.
Yeah, exactly. So it got to the stage where I knew I was going to go away on these festivals, and I just decided that I wasn't going to come back to this job because it was horrible and I hated it with every fibre of my being. I particularly hated it since another guy had started working selling guidebooks, a guy genuinely called Zack. And Zack was a dickhead. Like, I'm really sorry, because he might watch this, and he's going to recognise his name,
I know.
and he's going to recognise me, and he's going to recognise you. He'll definitely recognise you. But I didn't like Zack, okay? Do you know what? Zack was probably a really nice guy, but he'd come off the back of like a bad breakup and stuff, like as most people working in that job
everyone working there was like, it was just like this hellscape of like broken relationships, and people were just like going out with each other, like trying to feel better. Didn't work.
No, just trying to fill the hole in the heart.
horrible.
And Zack was like, yeah. I remember this. I remember this one conversation with Zack when I was standing outside selling guidebooks, and he was like, "Yeah, so I broke up with my girlfriend." I was like, "Oh no, I'm sorry, man. That really sucks." It's like, "Yeah, but no, it's good though, because now I've broken up with my girlfriend. I've had like loads more sex." I was like, "Okay, Zack, that's great. I really hope we end this conversation now before you tell me about the sex." And he was like, "So like before I was with my girlfriend, I'd had sex with like 2 people, but since breaking up with my girlfriend, I've had sex with like 6 or 7 people." And I was like, "Wow, Zack, why are you telling me this? Stop."
As you're just like peddling guidebooks to the
telling me
public.
and I was like, "Yeah, that's £5. Thank you very much." Can you stop talking about the people we've had sex with in front of people who I'm trying to sell guidebooks to? Is that all right?
Yeah.
He was just a bit of a dick. Like you can't even really. When someone's just a bit of a dick. You know how you look at me, guys, and you think, Tally's all right, but he's a bit of a dick. It was like that, basically. Yeah. And I just didn't get on with him very well, and I didn't like him, and it was just another reason why I was really, really, really looking forward to leaving the job. And then one day, on my last day, in fact, I was walking into work, and I saw ahead of me, because I remember this moment, and I will remember it for the rest of my life. I was walking down the street, and it's a very long street to get to the staff entrance.
Yeah, tons of people, right?
And there was this girl walking in front of me who was wearing a black and white stripy top and tight trousers. And her top was very tight. And so were her trousers. And it showed off her figure, like, rather splendidly. And, no beating around the bush. You've got a very good figure.
No beating around the bush.
Wow, well done. And I thought, wow, that girl is, like, super, super hot. That girl is, like, outrageously hot. That girl is, like, heartbreakingly hot. Well. And I went into work, and, like, because you got into work long before me because you were along the road, and I got in a bit later, and, like, I put my polyester shirt on and my trousers. But that was the first moment I ever saw Evitel from behind.
Yeah.
Don't mind if I do. But I didn't think of it in those terms. I was just like, that's a really hot girl. And I got started on selling my guidebooks, and I was working with Zack that day out the front. I was on the front steps of the Natural History Museum. I was thinking, well, this is my last day in the Natural History Museum. I can get through this. It's going to be fine. It's going to be all right. This is okay. I can get through this horrible day at work with this guy that I don't like. And Zack was being his normal self, and he was like, "Oh, Tali. Have you seen the really hot American girl who's working on the front desk today? She's really hot. She's American. She's really hot."
That's part of the package.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know, let me go and check, Zack. And I went to check, and it was Evitel working on the front desk. And I was like, yeah, that's that really hot girl that I saw this morning. Like, fair play, Zack, she is super hot. And I was like, I saw her coming to work this morning. Yeah, she's super hot. Fair play, super hot. And Zack was like, "I want to give her my number. Do you think I should give her my number? Should I give her my number, Tali?" And a few things went through my head at this point. One, I thought, there is literally no way that girl is going to give Zack her number. 2, I don't really like Zack. 3, if he tries to ask for her number and she says no, Zack might be sad. 4, I think it would be funny if Zack was sad.
Can you believe it?
And I was like, yeah, Zack, I think you should give her your number. And he's like, "You really think so? You really think that I should give him my number?" And I was like, "Yeah, Zack, I think you should. I think you should go and give her your number right now. And let me know how it goes. I'll hold the fort here, mate. Don't worry. You go and you give her your number." And he went away, and I was all like... And I watched him queue with, like,
get in the line of people buying tickets.
To get to the desk. And I was like, ha ha ha. And I sold some guidebooks, probably sold more than usual because I was so happy about the victory that was about to come my way on my last day there. I was like sticking it to Zack on my last day. And Zack came back looking pretty pleased with himself. And I was like, "So, Zack, how did it go?" And Zack was like, "Yeah, gave me a number. This is great. We can go out for a date. What happened? How did he get your number?
So listen, you know, I was single, I was free, I was in a new place. I'd gone on like a couple dates with people from the museum because, like I say, I think we were all a little bit desperate. And
that's definitely true.
Yeah. We were all just like, you know, and God, I went on a date with this one guy and then he ignored me. Like the thing happened where we'd see each other at work and he would look away and I was like, oh no, this is happening. So,
Sorry, carry on.
So that was a thing. So here I am sitting at the front desk, doing my thing. I'd gone on some like.
Oh, you got to sit down at your job?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
If I wasn't working in one of the exhibitions, I could sit at the desk. And this time I'm sitting at the desk, I'm selling tickets, and I see this guy wearing a uniform. Also come up and he leans up on the ticket desk and he's like,
oh, he's such a dick. Just remembering this makes me so angry.
Hey. And I'm like, hey, hello. He's like, so, sorry to bother you, but listen, I'm thinking about playing the lottery today. And I was like, cool. And in my head, I'm like, is this like a British person thing? Mind you, I'm still new to the UK, so I'm like really excited that everyone has an accent. And I think that's why I just kind of dated a bit indiscriminately because I was like, cool. And I was like, oh, the lottery, okay. And he's like, yeah. Something to play the lottery. I just need some help thinking up some numbers. And I was like, really? Okay. 5? And he's like, no, like, you know, I'm thinking like 0, 7. And this is, of course, 07 is the way phone numbers in the UK begin. And of course, because I was still new here, it didn't quite occur to me. And I was like, and then the light went off and I was like, right, so you're playing the lottery. I have some numbers for you. And I gave him my number. And
I mean, fair play, smooth af.
And I was like, wow, because I was just like, wow, someone just used a line on me and I went for it. And I did it. And he was like, cool. I was like, all right.
And that's like, the story he told me when he got back outside. He was like, yeah, I used the old lottery line. I was like, what? What's the lottery line? Because I was already annoyed because he got the number. I was like, what's the lottery line, Zach? And he told me, I said I was doing the lottery and I needed some numbers. So she gave me a phone number. And I was so annoyed. I was like so annoyed that it was my last day at work and I had convinced him to ask this hot American girl for her number. Convinced that she would say no and it would make him sad and I would be happy and the winner on my last day at work. Okay, fine, whatever. And I was in a bad mood for the rest of the day. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, it's my last day. I can get through this. I played myself. There we go.
You did.
But then I also thought, just, you know, at the back of my mind, I was like, look, I don't want to blow my own trumpet here, okay? Because, you know, I'm not a great looking guy, but neither's Zack. And I reckon if she said yes to Zack, she'll probably say yes to me. Like, if that's the bar, it's likely that having said yes to Zack, she'll say yes to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought nothing more of it, because I was like, I'm not going to go and ask her out, because she's like, yes to Zack or not, she is way out of my league. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to queue. Like, I can't then queue up and do the same thing. I'm also doing the lottery.
Get in the queue. Could you imagine?
And so instead, I was like, I'm going to go for lunch, mate. All right, I'm going to go for lunch. And our canteen was up like 5 flights of stairs at the top of the museum.
Right at the top.
And I went up to the canteen. I was like really pissed off.
Lovely, overpriced canteen.
And I queued up and I got my food. And I was looking around and I found a table by myself and I sat down just so I could be in a mood by myself. And I put it down there and I was eating and I looked up and at the other side of the canteen, just finishing up, also on a table by herself, was Evitel. I was like, oh, that hot American girl has been the source of my woes today. And Evitel had just finished her lunch and she took up a tray and she put it and she left. And I thought, if she said yes to Zack, she'll probably say yes to me. these. That's what I'm thinking. And like, it's my last day here, so why not? And I left my food where it was, and I got up, and I ran down the stairs after her, and I stopped.
So I was like halfway down the stairs by then, and down this like twisting thing.
And I was like, hey, hi. And I think I might have even started by saying like, I know you've already been asked out today, but I just want, you know, it's my last day here, and you know, I'm leaving today. I'm going, you know, away, and but I'm coming back, and you know, I was wondering, would you like to take my number? What did you think when this was happening, by the way?
So the way it happened, it really took me by surprise. I always think I was still just, you know, I was alone eating my lunch, you know. Usually I would have snuck off to the science museum on my lunch break because they had this, oh God, I'm such a dweeb. They had this like science of the orchestra exhibition on where they would play the planets and like surround sound.
That was awesome.
And just incredible. If it ever comes back and you can see it, it's so good. But I would literally, so sad. I would go to the science museum on my lunch break and I would sit in this dark room and I'd listen to the planets and I'd geek out about it. It was amazing. And then I'd come back and then I would like give me energy for handling the rest of the day. So I normally would have done that. Instead, I went upstairs. I got this really expensive like falafel, you know, just like putting my like pennies towards this like really, really expensive, overpriced canteen food.
Because it was like over half an hour's pay, like to get lunch.
Exactly. When you think about it that way, it's like how many like hours of my pay does this take away? Although, because I was on like zero, like my wage was. The agency
we
was
were all getting
really skimming my wages. So anyway, and so I'm halfway down the stairs and this guy comes after me, and all I remember is you being very tall.
I was also up some stairs.
Yeah. You were like looking at, and I remember you being tall, and I remember you having rosy cheeks. I like very vividly.
I had just run across the room.
When you do just have rosy cheeks generally, and I remember that, and I remember like liking your accent, and I kind of spaced out a little bit because you were just like cute and you were talking to me and you were a bit nervous. You just started talking like
I think
you
I did.
You were just gabbing, and
how unusual.
I know, but it was really funny. There wasn't like a lot. It was just you kind of talking at me for a little bit, and I I remember Shakespeare came up. Like you said something about Shakespeare, and so my brain is like, what is going on? You said something about like, I think music festival, maybe like something like words were coming out of your mouth in a nice little accent. And I was like, this is great. What's going on? And then you were like, can I give you my number? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, wow, like, you know, the second time today. And that's, wow.
Except Zack asked for your number and I gave you my number, which, guys.
Exactly.
Much cooler.
Much cooler. Always offer to give your number
rather than ask for someone their
exactly
number. Like, because
right?
Yeah, exactly. I always felt like asking for a girl's number was always a bit like, you know, a bit needy, really. A bit kind of almost like, more demanding.
Give it to me.
Like offering to give your number to someone else is so much cooler.
You gave me the power.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so that was pretty amazing. And then I remember kind of like walking away and being like, wow, England is magic.
And
what a magical place.
I walked up the stairs and I sat down and I finished my lunch. It was luckily still there. And I was like, cool. Okay, well, look, that could have gone a lot worse. At least I didn't humiliate myself, or I kind of did. And I went back and I finished my day with Zack. Didn't mention it at all, obviously, even though I would have liked the little gloat. But, you know, he was also going out on a date with Evie. So I was like, okay, and that's going to happen. And also I'm well aware that I'm going away for a couple of weeks before I even come back. Like, this is my last day at work. But whatever, fine. And I finished my shift earlier than most people in the museum, like I say, because we sold all our guidebooks and I was done so I could go home. And I remember being in the locker room and I changed into my normal clothes and I went to have a poo in the scientist's toilet because I thought... because I had a special badge that allowed me into the scientist's toilet. Because I had I'd been there for a little bit and I had racked up some privileges. And I was like, I'm going to use this pass to have a poo in the scientist's toilet one last time because it's a nice toilet. And I went in and I was having a poo and I was really enjoying it. I was like, suck on this, scientist. So I'm not even going to pull the chain. And I got a text as I did from Evitel. And I was like, wow, she is not playing it cool at all. And she was like, yeah, awesome. Let's meet up. This would be great. And I was like, fantastic. And I didn't reply to it straight away. I was like, I will reply to this when I'm on public transport. And I put it back in my pocket, and I left the toilet, and I was all like, finished at the museum, all done, going to some festivals, gonna have a date with a hot girl when I get back, this is awesome. And at the other side of the corridor, walking towards me, was Evitel. And it was like...
And I had, hilariously enough, I had texted you from the bathroom.
Yeah, you're making your way back from the bathroom. I was
you can't have your phone out while you're like behind the desk or anything, totally. So I was like...
And so, like, we just had a poo, both of us, and we were, like, saw each other across the corridor, and of course she just texted me, and I hadn't replied. So it was that thing of, like, I was like, hey, I just got your text.
Yeah.
It was like when you say goodbye to someone, but then it turns out you're both walking in the same direction.
It was exactly that.
It was, like, just a little bit awkward, so it was like, I just got your text. I'm going to reply, but I'm just off now, but hey, thanks for replying. Awesome, bye. And we went our separate ways. And then, so I went away to the music festivals, to the first of the music festivals with my brother.
Well, and that's the thing. It was like, okay, cool. I'll see you in like 2 weeks. And I'll be like, okay, all right, cool.
So I went to Green Man with my bro, and we had an awesome time. It was incredibly wet there that year. It was a mud extravaganza. It was kind of horrible in a way. I think I saw some good people. I can't really remember. Mogwai were very good. But while I was away, and I was like, well, look, I'm very aware that Evitel is going on dates with other people while I'm here, right? I know she's going on a date with Zack. And so I was kind of like just texting her every now and then.
You texted me like pictures of the sea, and I was like, thanks.
And Green Man and stuff. And
yeah. And I was like, all right, we've never, cool.
Yeah, why not? Just as like,
just to remind me that you're there.
So I still want a date. And while I was away, of course, you went on a date with Zack. Because, okay, so here's the thing. A lot of you think this story is over.
No.
A lot of you think, like, this is how Taliesin and Evitel met. Brilliant. Now I know. I'll go and do something else. But no. The story is only just beginning.
It is just beginning. So, I know you must be thinking, there is no story that could possibly top the saga of how Taliesin and Evitel met.
Why have we stopped telling the story? I don't understand.
Because if you are interested in stories, we are working with Audible to offer you guys 30 days of free Audible subscription. So if you go to audible.com/Taliesin Evitel or text Taliesin Evitel to 500 you guys can get access to their entire Audible library for 30 days and check it out and get into some audiobooks.
I'm not going to do any of that. Do you know why?
Why is that?
I'm going to use the link in the description below.
No way.
Also, Evitel, can I give you my number?
What's your number?
500.
So here's the thing. With Audible, you get access to a bunch of really cool benefits. So you get a free audiobook from their premium list every month, which is super cool. You get access also to all of their other kind of content. So there's like kind of like meditation tracks on there, there's relaxation, there are podcasts, there's like original entertainment. So in addition to all of the audiobooks, you get all of that too.
And there's Warcraft books on there as well. I've got to say, after watching on BlizzConline, Chrissy Gold and Taryn Gregory talking about Lord of the Clans, one that I haven't read, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going to listen to Christy Golden reading Lord of the Clans from Audible. Absolutely.
And if you'd like a personal book recommendation from me, it's interesting because I was listening to audiobooks right about when we met. Commuting to work, thinking about going on that date with Tali.
What one were you listening to when we met?
I was listening to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. It's the 1800s. Gentlemen, English gentlemen. Magic exists, but it's like an academic study. It's brilliant, and it's an amazing book, and it's like 30 hours on there of pure English magic and bliss. So if you're looking for some little bit of magical English gentleman action, as I was, go ahead to audible.com/Taliesin Evitel or text Taliesin Evitel to 500. You can get that 30-day free subscription. Give it a try, see how it feels.
Can we get back to our own romantic novel story now, please?
We probably should. Let's do it. So, I've racked up some like numbers from some dudes. And Tali is gone, of course. He's left the museum. And so Zack is like, hey, let's go on a date. So we did. And we went on a total of in those 2 weeks, we went on a total of like maybe 2 or 3 dates. And I have to admit, I wasn't really feeling it from the start. But, you know, I was like, why not? You know, let's just hang out a little bit. And I remember it was maybe on the first one where we ended up sitting in a park getting some KFC, which...
Hey, that would have won me the F over, mate.
I think I would have appreciated more as maybe like a second date. Just like, it's like looking into each other's eyes over some wings.
And nothing to wipe your hands on.
And, yeah, so...
He didn't even take you to sit down in KFC?
No, we just went to the park. Maybe that was a second...
Do you have some White Lightning?
No, we had some wine from a bottle.
Oh, that's lush.
And
hey, KFC and wine is pretty much all we eat now.
You know what? Yeah, like that counts as a date between us.
Prescient.
So yeah, and you know, it was like okay, but I wasn't super feeling it. We went out a couple of times, and then we went out in like Leicester Square, which is like really like tourist central in London, and we met up with some of like his friends and we went to a club, and I remember like right from the beginning he was like, "Can I tell them you're my girlfriend?" And I was like, yeah. What? You know, it was just a bit you know, and right from the start I wasn't super feeling it, but he was also like very, very, very clingy. And you know, and we'd see each other at work, and so it was kind of a lot. It was a lot. And
I didn't know that bit. That's horrible.
Yeah. I've kind of blocked some of these bits out of my mind. So yeah, so I just was like not feeling it, but we're working together, so I don't want it to be too weird. But then like he would text me a lot, and then it was clear to me that this kind of had to cool down. So I was like, look, Zack, I'm really sorry, but can we just like just step apart a little bit? This is all happening too fast. I'm like meeting his like friends from home. He's like inviting me to go like visit his like where, you know, his parents live. I'm like, you know what?
Wow, that is intense.
Like, yeah, it was a lot. So I was like, let's just not do this anymore. He did not take the news very well. To the point where he would just like, he would call me a lot. And I remember there's some days where it was just like, you know, every few minutes. And I stopped answering, and I just gotta cut this off because it just got too weird and it just was not nice. And of course, you know, I had a date with Tali on the cards, you know, in like a few days. So that kind of came to an end. It was awkward. I think he was a bit sad about it, clearly. But I was like, I'm not going on any more dates. I'm not going on any more Zack dates. This isn't working for me. I am sorry.
So, I've been to Green Man Festival. I got very wet and very muddy with my brother. And I came back from Green Man Festival, and I came back to London after spending a couple of days with my parents and my brother in Swansea. I was no longer working at the Natural History Museum. I didn't have another job on the cards just yet, but I wasn't working at the Natural History Museum. And I was like, cool, time for that date with Evie, right? Mm-hmm. So we organised to meet, and we decided to meet in the bar of the Soho Theatre. And if you're ever in London and you just want a nice place to drink in central London that is not just rammed like all the pubs around there are, the bar of Soho Theatre is amazing because it's like a theatre bar, right? So it's really busy up until 7 o'clock when everyone goes to watch the plays. It's a really quiet, nice place to sit and have a drink in central. It's still busy. You're still in the centre of London. You're still in the middle of Soho. And whenever people come to, like when Tara and Gregory and Diva came to London and they wanted to meet up, we took them there. When Neela Cree came to London, we took him there. We always, it's just where we go with people.
It just feels good to go there.
And also there's like loads of really cool, like you're right next to Chinatown. So there's loads of places to get food and stuff. And it's just a really cool place, right?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and it was kind of like in the back of my mind, you know, I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to go on another date with some other guy and we'll see what happens, fine.
Yeah, and it got to the day of the date.
Yes.
And I guess we should chronologically start with you here.
Yeah, so it is the day of the date. And, you know, I go into work as usual, and I see Zack coming kind of down the hall. And he's like, look, I was like, God. He's like, look, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to bother you. I'm sorry. I don't want to, you know, do this anymore. But can we just talk? Can we just get a cup of coffee? Can we just really, really quick? And I was like, and he's like, look, I just have something to tell you. let's have a cup of coffee and I won't bother you ever again. And I was like, you know what? Fair enough. I'm sorry if, I broke your heart. I don't think I did because it was like literally a week. But anyway, I was like, okay, fine. Let's get a coffee. And
oh my God, there are people in chat that don't know what's about to happen. And this is glorious.
No, this is good. This is so good. After work, let's grab a coffee. And in my head, I'm like, I'm supposed to be going on a date. Okay, fine. But I'll do the coffee. We'll have the date. So we go and we grab the coffee. It may have even been on like our lunch break.
You've
or
always
something.
said lunch break before.
I think it was lunch break actually. So we go and we sit down. It's this South Kensington. It's like beautiful, full of like kind of tourists and museums and rich people. And we're just like, sitting there. I'm like, okay, we have our coffee. We sit down. And he's like, look, I just have to tell you something. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God. Like, he's like, so, this guy, Tali. And I was like, whoa. Like, in my head, I'm like, that's the guy I'm going on a date with tonight. Cool. He's like, so this guy, Tali? I was like, yeah. Rings a bell. He's like, listen, I know you might have had some contact with him. And I just want you to know. You need to know. He's in jail. And I'm just sitting there with my coffee like...
It's a bold move. Bold move.
And like not knowing how to react. So I'm like, wow. And meanwhile, I'm just like, I think you even texted me that morning or something.
Of course!
You texted me that morning. So I was like, wow, Zack, tell me more. And I'm like, why is he in jail? And he's like, listen, it's really bad. He stalks his ex-girlfriends. He stalks them. And I think he and his like
bit of projection
girlfriend
there from Zack, I think.
Yeah. He's like, he stalks his ex-girlfriends. He stalks them. He's really dangerous. And I just want to let you know that he's now in jail.
Didn't he say I was stalking someone with my ex-girlfriend?
So you were like with a girlfriend stalking ex-girlfriends. It's a whole like mix of girlfriends, apparently. And then I'm like, wow, Zack, that's really serious. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you. And in my head, I'm like, what is going on here? And so, I thank him for the coffee. I thank him for the warning, and he's like, no problem. I just thought you should know. Stay safe. I was like, okay.
Meanwhile, I've put on a nice shirt and a nice pair of shoes, and I have made my way to the Soho Theatre Bar. And I sit there. I'm there early because, this girl is really, really, really hot, and I want to like be there on time, and I want to make a good impression. I don't want to be late. So I'm there, and I want to bag us a table as well, just in case it is busy and stuff, So there's nothing worse than going on a date and you're meeting at a pub, and it's like, oh, where should we sit? Oh, there's nowhere to sit. What should we do? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to go somewhere else? It's like, no, you want to have everything set up for when your date gets there. So I bagged us a nice table by the window for two, and so I was sitting there. I was reading a book. I can't remember what book I was reading. But it was a good one. And I was reading this book and I was waiting for my date to arrive. And she walked in and she was looking gorgeous, obviously, because she is. She sat down and was like, what would you like to drink? And you were like, oh, surprise me.
Sorry. I know, that's such a dick move. I'm really sorry.
Dick move.
I messed up.
I almost walked out straight there and then. I was like, okay. I was like, I rose to the challenge. I got you a ginger beer and
rum and ginger beer. Really good, actually.
Yeah. And like we had a really nice time. And, we got on really, really well. The subject of World of Warcraft did come up.
Of course it did.
So this is a WoW video.
Yeah, this is a WoW video. Yeah.
We were having a really good time. We had a kiss. And that was nice. I liked that very much.
And I turned to Tali and I was like, I'm really glad you're not in jail.
And I said, me too. It's a weird thing to say. And then she told me this story about how Zack had said that I was in jail. I was like, Zack, you piece of shit. What? And then it suddenly hit me. Like, it suddenly washed over me, like, how bad that was. Because, like, okay, so people from Britain do this all the time. I'm not sure if people from other parts of the world do it, but, like, people from Britain make jokes about being in jail all the time. Like, it's just a standard kind of thing. Like, if someone says, people make jokes about going to jail or being, like, committed all the time. You know, like,
it's a cultural
it wouldn't have
thing.
been unusual if, like, Evie had come in to the bar, and if she'd said, like, oh, you're early, I could easily have replied, just as a nervous joke, I could easily have replied, oh, yeah, well, they let me out early on Tuesdays. Something like that.
Exactly.
Just like a little joke like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I'd said that, if I'd said something like that, you'd have been like, Zack was right, I don't believe it. And I was like, wow, I could have easily have said something like that throughout the course of the date, like made a joke about being in jail or something, you know? I'm just so glad I didn't.
I know. And the thing is, and it was like, and we had a really great date. It was so nice. Like we were chatting, we were talking about like your book, we were just talking. It was just really, really good. And at the end, you even tried to like seduce me.
I did.
You did. And like, I was like, okay, cool. I'll see you.
Well, we had a kiss, and the night was coming to an end, and you were looking more. I was like, look, I have to ask, if you want to come to mine, you can, And you were like, I can't because I'm working in the morning and I don't have contact lens.
Yeah,
solution.
I'm like, I'm wearing my contacts. I gotta. And then you were like, and Tali was like, yeah, it's okay. I've got contact lens solution. I was like,
and I did.
But like, I'll see you next time.
I've thought a lot about it since, and when I think, and I've said this on stream before, but like when I think back to that, like everything that happened that led to our first date, like the fact that if anything had happened differently on that day, one little thing, like for me and Evie to meet and to arrange to go on a date, like so many things had to happen.
So many pieces.
And if they hadn't happened then, like if we hadn't met on that day, at that moment,
your last day of work,
we would never have met.
None of this would have happened.
And it scares me so much. Like if I, literally, if I hadn't like just seen Evie walking on the street that day, or if I hadn't been working with Zack, and if Zack hadn't like gone and got Evie's number, because that definitely kind of emboldened me a little bit. If you'd said no to Zack, and if you'd been nice to Zack and tried to let him down gently and said, I have a boyfriend or something, like obviously I'd never have asked you out then when he'd reported that. Like if I hadn't gone to lunch at the exact time I went to lunch, and if you hadn't gone to lunch at the exact time you went to lunch, if I hadn't, like if there'd been a longer queue at the canteen, if I'd ordered a different thing which had taken longer to come, if I had sat in a different chair which hadn't let me see Evitel leave, and if I hadn't chased her down the stairs, and like so many things, and if one of those things hadn't happened, like we'd never have met.
This wouldn't
never
be happening.
have been if I had in fact been, if I hadn't escaped from jail. And it terrifies me. It absolutely terrifies me to think like how easy it would have been not to have met. And it's absolutely crazy. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But it's not quite the end of the story either, because then we got together. Our second date was at Shakespeare's Globe on the South Bank. We went to see Henry V at Shakespeare's Globe, and
was Billy Boyd in that? Was that the one with Billy Boyd?
Yeah. And it was raining, and Shakespeare's Globe is a recreation of Shakespeare's Globe, so it's mostly open air, and you stand like and you watch it. And it was raining, and there was about 12 people in the audience, and two of them were us.
And of course, we're in like the groundlings,
and we're watching like this, and we've got like plastic over us, and we're And every time people came up on stage, they looked at us like, if you weren't here, we wouldn't have to be in the rain doing this. If you just went home, we could just stop. It's like, well, we're here though. Suck it. And that was a great day, and that day ended with us trying to crash a party in the Oxo Tower.
Yeah.
And then you did come back to my place that time, and we just stayed up all night watching Kate Bush videos on YouTube and John Lennon. Yeah. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really special.
Such a good day.
It was like really
cool.
Good.
But that wasn't the last we heard of Zack, was it?
Yeah, so meanwhile, Zack was like, gave me this information about Tali being in jail, and was like, I'll leave you alone afterwards. Clearly, because everyone at the museum knew what was going on with everyone else. Like, it was just this cesspit. Like, it was such a mess. Clearly, he found out that we had gone on a date, and, we weren't really talking anymore. And I actually left my job there soon after, because I started tutoring and I started doing some other stuff. Thank God. So I started getting these messages from him. Hilariously, considering that he said that Tali was in jail for stalking, I would get phone calls every day and texts every day, like dozens.
Did you ever call him out on the jail story?
No. So this is the beautiful thing. I never called him out on the jail story. I never responded to his messages because they were just relentless and it just got weird. We were like, we're in a relationship. We're like, does Zack know that he created this? Like, does that, you know? And I remember he would like try to friend me on Facebook every now and then. This would be like weeks and even months later. Like for a while, he would just kind of be like, leaving me these messages and texts and being like, look, I just think we're really good together. But my favorite one.
Okay, so I've sat there.
Yeah.
And
You've watched
it was
this
1,000 text night.
Yeah.
And I've sat there watching your phone ring all night when we were first getting together.
Yeah. And it was...
not even like when you moved into that second place.
Yeah.
And even then, like months later, like hundreds of calls in a night and just texts constantly. Yeah. And I was like, what's going on? Yeah. And she's like, Zack. And I was like, oh. So crazy.
Yeah. And so then, eventually they petered out. But then maybe once a year or once every few months, I would still get this golden nugget. I remember I got a Facebook message once that was, literally a year later being like, hey, Evie, I hope you're good. No, it's been a while. Haven't seen each other in a long time, but I just want to let you know that my mate is hosting this amazing party with really, really hot actresses. Like Kate Moss is going to be there, Kate Blanchett, just super hot people coming. And I thought maybe you'd want to come to this party. And it's only 30-pound cover, but I think you would be great.
Because he made out he was inviting you because you were hot.
Exactly.
And he was trying to sell you a ticket.
He was trying to it's just so, oh my God. So these, every now and then we get these precious nuggets.
Plot twist, because we did actually see Zack on Facebook the other day.
Yeah.
And he's married an American woman.
It's just his thing. Just his thing. Some people just have a thing. And apparently it's his thing.
So there we go.
We wish him all the best.
A happy ending to that story. Zack has married an American woman. Whether the woman knows or not, I don't know. But that's where we're at.
So that, my friends, is how we met.
And how we got together. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah.
And we thought it was just as well that we got this video together and that we put it out there, and we're going to put it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, because why not?
Everyone can watch it. We're going to put it onto the special playlist where our specials like non-WoW videos are and stuff. And people can come and watch this any old time they like. That was the story about how Taliesin and Evitel got together.
Yeah, and here we are.
Hope you enjoyed it. One of my favourite things ever was seeing people in the chat who did not know the jail thing.
Oh, the jail thing is
and they were like, what? What is it? What's he going to say? What's he going to say? And the fact that so many of you didn't know that beautiful, beautiful detail.
It's worth it every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Made me very, very happy. The time Tali went to jail.